Hello everyone, this video includes 4 chapters. First is examples how you can read the full card. Second is overview as seen from mine and the book I'm collaborating with perspective. Third is 3 dangers and 3 potentials of the full and how to take advantage of the information given in this video, so also tips. Fourth is it's called the full in real life. You'll find timestamp for each of the chapters in the description of this video. Here are some examples how you can read the full when he shows up in your tarot reading. The person is about to go out on an adventure, you're about to embody a fresh energy, you are learning to trust your instincts and starting to follow them. For you there is a positive time period, there is a naivety that's safe to follow, or a reverse meaning, especially if it shows up in reverse. You will get lucky if you follow your lightheartedness. Your idea of going out into the unknown territory is supported by the higher power. Boo. Mic drop. No, I'm afraid. The Fool can show up in your life not only in tarot, by the way, but also as an archetype, maybe in a movie, maybe in your own life, how someone acts towards you, what you observe in the street, art, even more specifically try to embody it. There are some examples for sure. We'll get to it later. But I want to start this overview with saying, like Sally Nichols says in the book, the Fool often doesn't serve no overt purpose. He's like a trickster. He can show up in different places than just his own placement, which is number 0 in the deck, and he is part of each of the major arcana in a way, but at the same time he is neither. You can't pin him down, alright? So it's always like a kaleidoscope with the Fool. You can kind of talk about some specific characteristics, which is going to be the task of this day, of this video. And it does still play a role in your life, which is, let's put a thesis here, that it's a very important role actually. It's like in a way we can say it's a central role, because you can kind of compare him to what Jung says to be like the driving force of the psyche. So it's extremely powerful. It's just not so physical. And at the same time it is, it will show up in the physical at the same time. So I want to start by giving you some quotes. What seems like a precipice from afar may prove to be only a small gully when approached with the Fool's gusto. It's because he's the driving engine that comes before the action that happens or the result that happens. His energy is unconscious, another hint to you, and undirected, yet it seems to have a purpose of its own. Like you can't do these things. You can't do so many of things without this drive that kind of comes out of nowhere, but yet it's something. I will give you the danger the Fool presents in this video, and you will see just how transformative this archetype, when he shows up or when you embody it, can be in your life. So his energy is unconscious and undirected, yet it seems to have a purpose of its own. The winds of prophecy and poesy inhabit his spirit. Although he wanders with no fixed abode, he endures intact. Again, original energy kind of quality throughout the ages. His multicolored costume spins a rainbow wheel, offering us glimpses of eternity. Kaleidoscope. Being a creature of perpetual motion, he dances through the cards each day, connecting the end with the beginning endlessly. Speaking of Jung, another thing I find interesting that Sally wrote is that the Fool strides forward, yet he looks backward, thus connecting the wisdom of the future with the innocence of childhood, which is kind of a quality of psyche, like of that central force behind psyche, if we want to kind of go that far. So it suggests that the psyche is wise, so it has that innate, insane amount of wisdom that we know that unconscious has insane amount of wisdom, which we just don't know because it's unconscious. So that's why it intimidates us, because what we're conscious of is just like a little portion of what we could know or do know in our more like inner being. But yet, like, what's fun about it? That's like a twist. I think that's not the innocence of childhood. I don't know if that's the psyche. I guess maybe that's the contrast of the more human version of how the Fool presents. So this is the contrast between something non-physical and physical, because childish energy is very playful, is very embodied, and that innocence is definitely rooted more in the emotions, emotional wisdom, and emotional drive, rather than thinking and knowing with the mind. On a lighter note, this quote touches on the magic of being supported by higher power. Have you noticed? Right? Because when we do something that is in alignment and in accordance with the good stuff in our psyche, instead of the old beliefs that we have. So maybe after removing old beliefs, or maybe just acting on the right instinct when it shows up, not knowing why, we are supported by the higher power. And that's beautiful. It really kind of points to the power of our spirit, of our soul, and how grandiose it is, and how everything can kind of fall into place. That's also another, in my opinion, reason why the Fool is so powerful, and why it's so adventurous, and why that adventure is so light and joyful. Even though in some drawings of the Fool, some versions of the archetype, he shows up as a sad Fool. But this is what we're going to be differentiating today. Which aspects of the Fool are the sad or the lower frequency ones, which are the lighter ones. And don't make a mistake, both of them, both parts of the spectrum, both sides of the spectrum, are super important to know about and integrate, in a sense, like you need to know which one is yours, or which aspects of both of light and dark side maybe show up in your life or in your personality as an unconscious force, because this can often, like really often, be unconscious. So this is what we want to do. We want to make it conscious, because if it's not conscious, it's going to play tricks on you. Its variegated colors and haphazard design might seem to bespeak a discordant spirit, yet within this apparent chaos, a pattern is discernible. Thus the Fool presents himself as one bridge between the chaotic world of the unconscious and the ordered world of the consciousness. The Tarot Fool occasionally wears a feather in his cap, further emphasizing his connection with the heavenly spirit. Hello, dear viewer. If you listen carefully, you know that there are some downsides and upsides when it comes to the Fool. I want to highlight 3 of each, because we need to start building a cohesive picture and be aware of the dangers that the Fool presents. So let's go ahead. First theme of the bad stuff that's basically are inherent to that archetype is that he has inherent sadness and solitude to him. It can present also as the Hermit, as the major arcana archetype, the Hermit. Like I told you, he can kind of jump around, and the other archetypes too. In some versions of the story, he can maybe be wise, but he's still not happy. Watch out for that. Then you need to know that he is the embodiment of non-conformation to society, okay? This is not good. it's dangerous because there are upsides to him. That's also where he can draw some of his good qualities and where some of his wisdom comes from, but it's to an extreme. And that's like the key characteristic of the Fool. And the third point is that he's dangerous. Now, I'm gonna ask you to now watch this little clip so that you know what I'm talking about. Now, let's talk about most important danger from a psychological standpoint when it comes to the Fool. Is that unless the essential parts of our psyche are integrated, the Fool is likely to bring out destructive impulses in the person he shows up for. Now, I have two questions for you. Are destructive impulses always bad? That depends on your definition of what are destructive impulses, and sometimes we don't really know what's destructive and what's constructive. We're still trying to find ourselves, so sometimes it's okay to go a little bit in what initially appears as destructive. That's also what's included into that concept. But so are destructive impulses always totally bad? In my opinion, no. But can some of them, when it comes to the Fool, be objectively really bad? That also, yes. So this is when we start to talk about the Fool being a dangerous archetype. But don't worry. In this video, I'm giving you an overview so that you can keep the Fool archetype front of mind, so that he doesn't mess with you, and so that you can finally integrate him in a way that serves into your psyche. So again, it's all about balance. It's not that he's like gonna do bad things to you, you just need to be aware. So now, to the upsides of the Fool, which are also important. So he represents powerful, unrestrained flow of source energy. Damn. Linked to limitless creativity. So you can also link him to creativity. Then there is support of higher power once we're attuned to this flow, which is also a beautiful characteristic that comes with the Fool. And the third one is not requiring external instructions in order to get or find some order and wisdom, which does come hand in hand with that lack of confirmation to society. So you can kind of go a little bit in that direction of non-confirmation, or knowing where to conform and where not to. You know, that's the art, really. And that can bring you wisdom, and also, by the way, innovation. I guess also innovation is quite powerful when it comes to the Fool's potentials. I have 3 tips for you which might be helpful to know if you want to integrate them actively into your psyche. 1, understanding what you're ignorant about and why. So it's not like a 3-day exercise, or, you know, it's a lifelong journey. Kind of like the Fool is meant to get that wisdom out of his long adventures. So it's an attitude. Second thing, admitting to your mistakes after doing something stupid. Always good. And third, being active when it comes to meeting your needs and integrating your psyche. That's a crucial one, and kind of interwoven with the other two, so that you avoid the danger of the Fool, which you're now aware of. It is called the Fool because mankind finds it folly till it's known. It is sovereign, or it is nothing. And if it is nothing, then man was born dead. Another question that I find is relevant to ask ourselves is, are you playing the role of the Fool in your life, or are you experiencing him from the outside? Take a note of that, because if there's not a balance, there's going to be one or the other. And so how can you even recognize him? We should talk about what are the qualities that are typical for the Fool. So it can be something like unpredictability, spontaneity, naivety, lack of conformation to society, wisdom, solitude, but in a sense of like being exiled, being an outlaw in a way. but also it can go at the same time as being a person of a relevant position who is playing and performing that high importance role, because in history the fool was a jester to a king, and he was meant to give the king wisdom and entertain him also, yes, but he also played a role of being an advisor to the king, and both in fact in some presentations are seen as equal, even, or of not in all senses of course, but let's say for example being gifted with the same kind of wisdom. And these are some qualities. Also, people embody the full archetype when they prioritize life experience over higher education. Something I'm familiar with at certain points of my life. There is definitely different wisdom, and in any case, not to say which is better or more important because they're just different. It shows that the full is kind of like the more life experience wisdom, and it's way different than that, university gained kind of knowledge. As you can see, the fool is everywhere. The fool appears when someone you think you know makes an unexpected change. Or maybe it's you. You surprise yourself with something. Speaking of this, I don't like to connote cards to astrology, but just for the sake of this video, little connotation, you can kind of compare him to the planet Uranus. They have similar energies, these archetypes. So yes, you wouldn't accuse this little guy of that, but he can bring unexpected revelations and changes in your life once you encounter him. One more thing. Thank you for watching this video. Just a gentle reminder, I'm offering consultations with you guys based on tarot readings. So it's based on a tarot reading, and then we do a little consultation. So a bit of psychological visit, kind of, not really, because it's based on tarot mostly. And just like processing what happens in the session of reading that I sent you over. So if it sounds interesting to you, it's $70. You can book it by sending me an email, and I will send you a payment link, or you can book it from my website. By the way, the info is also on my website, or if you need more info, just text me through email. Okay, that's it. Bye.